الحصار طويل كيوم أسير لا ينتهي في زنزانة.
الشعب يريد خارج الطريق.
أهالي المخيم في محاولة كسر الحصار والقبض على المسؤولين.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Deep Focus. I'm very privileged and happy to have with me filmmaker Abdullah Al Khatib, who has made a very beautiful documentary called Little Palestine. Little Palestine is playing in a parallel section called Acid, devoted to the independent cinema at the Cannes Film Festival. The film documents life in Yarmouk, which was the largest Palestinian refugee camp from the year 1957 to 2018. In the wake of the Syrian civil war of 2011, the residents of Yarmouk became the targets of the atrocities of Bashar al-Assad, and they were put under a siege in 2013. Abdullah, with his camera, captures life under siege uh, in this particular refugee camp. And to know more about it, I'm going to invite a few questions from Abdullah. Abdullah, thanks for joining us for this session. First of all, about your own life. You were born there and spent your early life there. If you could tell the viewers in India a bit more about it.
اوكي، انا اسمي عبد الله الخطيب، لاجئ فلسطيني سوري. ولدت بمخيم اليرموك من الجيل الثالث للاجئين الفلسطينيين اللي اضطروا اللي هجروا من بيوتهم ب 48 من قبل اسرائيل. ولدت بالمخيم، عشت طول حياتي بالمخيم، درست بسوريا علم اجتماع، واشتغلت بمخيم اليرموك فترة مع الأونروا بمركز دعم شباب. يعني بشكل عام حياتي بصراحة، يعني حياتي تقريبا كل حياتي كانت بقلب اليرموك لحد ما صار عملية التهجير وطلعنا من المخيم. وبشكل عام هذا الجزء يعني.
So I will help translate and I will speak as I here, okay? So I'm Abdullah Al-Khatib and I'm Syrian Palestinian refugee of the third generation of people that were displaced in 84, in 48 by Israel, and I've lived all my life in Yarmouk, studied social science there. I used to work with the UNRWA in something that was called the Youth Support Center, and I spent actually all my life in Yarmouk until I was forcefully displaced to the north of Syria.
I see. From what I gather from the film, and what was the most striking aspect to me in the film, was that in the midst of so much of violence, I found that the voice of the filmmaker is a very philosophical, a very poetic voice. The way you contextualize things, simple things like how you talk about hunger, how you talk about homelessness. There is a lot of poetry in it, So in the midst of all this, strife that you have faced, in all the violence that you've seen, how does poetry spring into it?
لا حقيقة، يعني الفويس اوفر اللي تم استخدامه بالفيلم هو جزء من نص تحت اسم قواعد الحصار 40، وهذا النص تم كتابته داخل حصار مخيم اليرموك. ويعني هون الفرق لما الشخص بيكون من داخل المكان وجزء من هاي المأساة، أو شخص عم بيجي من خارج المكان لحتى يشوف شو اللي عم بيصير. فالفويس اوفر اللي انكتب أو قواعد الحصار هي كانت بالدرجة الأولى بالنسبة إلي هي محاولة شخصية للنجاة. أحد الأدوات اللي استخدمتها لأقدر أتوازن بهذا المشهد العنيف اللي كان عم بيصير باليرموك. النقطة الثانية إني كنت عم بحاول من خلال هاي الكتابات أعكس صورة تانية من حياة الناس بالحصار، مو بس الجانب المادي المباشر له علاقة بالموت والجوع، ولكن شيء له علاقة بالحياة الاجتماعية، بالحياة النفسية للبشر داخل الحصار والحرب.
So the voiceover that you hear in the film is part of a text that was written by me during the siege. It's called the 40 Rules of Siege. And here you actually see the difference between someone that filmed what was happening to him or her and someone that comes from outside. And someone that really lived the tragedies that I filmed. And first of all, it was a tool to survive, actually. And it was a tool to find the balance between the brutality that I witnessed all the time, and the inner balance. And the second idea of this voiceover was to find a way to give a picture on the things you don't see. In the picture, you see the brutal violence, but you do not see the social life, you don't see the psychological level. So this is something I tried to mirror through the voiceover and the rules that were written during the siege.
النقطة الثانية ما يخص أنا ما بعرف إذا هو نص فلسفي أو نص نثري. أنا بالنسبة لي هو نص ذاتي. باقي التصنيفات ما كتير تعنيني كيف بيتم تصنيفه فلسفي أو أدب أو نثر أو شعر. هو بالدرجة الأولى نص ذاتي، وهو خطاب داخلي موجه لإلي. يعني أنا بهذا المحل ما عم بلعب دور المعلم، ما بدي أعطي قواعد للناس شو اللي لازم تعمله بالحصار. أنا اللي كنت عم بحاول أعمله أعطي قواعد لإلي شخصيا بهذا المكان.
And I'm not sure whether it's a philosophical or poetry text. What is important that it's a personal text, and it's basically the discourse with myself. It's an inner discourse, and I did not try to be the teacher and giving rules to other people, but it was rather a text to give rules to myself, to what I witness.
But I, as a viewer, felt that, the beautiful words actually brought the situation, kind of magnified the problems there, and somehow, the tragedy also became a very uplifting, gathered a very uplifting aspect in terms of the human resilience, which came through the words.
ايه يعني من ناحيه ايه النص فيه شيء تفاؤلي، ولكن اكثر فيه اذا اكون دقيق فيه شيء مقاوم. يعني الهدف او فكره الفويس نعكس فكره المقاومه. حاولنا من خلال الصوره نعكس هذا الاشي، لانه عاده الناس بس تسمع حصار وهيك فبتتخيل مشاهد معينه لناس عم تبكي، ناس عم تشلخ بعض والى اخره. اللي حاولنا نعمله بالفويس وبالصورة إنه نعكس صورة تانية لها علاقة بالمقاومة، بالصمود، بالتفاؤل، وإن الناس بكل هذا الظرف الاستثنائي كانت عم تحاول تعيش.
Yeah, from one side there's something optimistic, but what is more important that it's about resistance. So when people think about siege, they usually think they have certain pictures in their mind. They think about crying, really miserable people. So what we try to do in the film is through the picture and the voiceover, really to give an echo to the idea of resistance, resilience, and steadfastness, to really show that despite these circumstances, people are really living and how they try to live.
كمان ضيف يعني كمان الموضوع بتوقف على كيف الناس تقرأ الفويس، لأنه ما كل الناس تتفق إنه هو تفاؤلي. في ناس ممكن تشوفه تشاؤم، في ناس ممكن تشوفه يعني هذا كمان الموضوع له علاقة بالمتلقي. صعب أعطي حكم مطلق إنه هذا النص هيك أو هيك، بس كل واحد بتلاقيه بالطريقة اللي هو بده إياها.
And it also depends on the reviewer. So I cannot say that it's generally optimistic. There are also people that say it's really pessimistic. So it really depends on how different people read it and or the feeling that it triggers in them.
It's not optimistic I meant. What I meant was that, you admire people for still retaining humanity, in the midst of all that is happening. I mean, obviously, you can't see anything optimistic coming out of the way one set of humans is treating another set of human beings, but how you respond to the situation, I thought that was admirable.
ما فينا علق على الحقيقة غير إني موافق.
I cannot add anything besides that. I completely agree to what you just said.
Taking off from there, having lived and seen both sides of life in your mock, the siege years, how transformative were they, not just to you as individuals, but the relationships and the community around. Because what struck me was that one scene where you find a set of people talking about how Syrians and Palestinians are still one. And I was quite taken in that despite all that is happening, there is still this thing of people to people relationship.
هلا بصراحة في نوعين من التحولات، في تحول إيجابي، أو ما بحب أستخدم كلمة تحولات بقدر ما بقول إنه الحرب والحصار بيفجر التناقضات، يعني بيطلع تناقضاتنا الاجتماعية، بيطلعها على الوش، لأنه هي أساسا بتكون موجودة بشكل أو بآخر، ولكن ما صار في هزة بتطلع. أوكي، ترجمة هذا الجزء.
Yeah, maybe there are two kinds of transformations, but I'm not sure whether I want to call them transformations. Maybe we rather have to talk about how the situation of the siege actually lets the contradictions you have explode, and usually that are contradictions that are already there, but that are not moved, but the siege let them move and appear.
فجزء من هاي يعني التناقضات اللي بتظهر هي تناقضات إيجابية، وجزء منها شيء سلبي. العلاقة بين الفلسطينيين والسوريين هي علاقة تاريخية مش وليدة اللحظة، يعني ما لها مرتبطة باليرموك. نحن كنا عايشين أساسا سوا باليرموك ومتجوزين من بعضنا وهيك. فالتأكيد على إنه نحن شعب واحد ومأساتنا واحدة هي يعني هي أحد الإيجابيات اللي كانت ظاهرة بحصار اليرموك، واللي حبيت أظهرها بالفيلم، إنه ما انسلخنا عن بعض، ضلينا متماسكين مع بعضنا بهذا المحل.
So these contradictions, they are positive and negative ones, and one of the positive ones is the relationship that you just described, and their relationship between Palestinians and Syrians is a historical one. It's not born out of one moment, but it's socially developed. People lived together, people married each other, and so on. And what I try to show in the film is that also in this situation, the relationship restains like this. It stays a positive relationship, and it was important for me to show that.
طبعا الضفة الثانية في كثير سلبيات موجودة، أو يعني في تناقضات اجتماعية سلبية بتظهر، يعني بصير في ميل عند الناس باتجاه التجمعات الصغيرة، باتجاه العائلة أو كذا، حتى يحموا حالهم. يعني العقد الاجتماعي بيتغير، بتبطل العلاقة الجمعية، بتصير كمان الناس أحيانا تروح باتجاهات الشخصية، وهذا الشيء يعني ميل نحو الأنانية.
Another contradiction that appears might be rather negative. It's the tendency that people do not try to organize in a bigger collective, but they try in order to protect themselves, to organize themselves in smaller groups like the families. So we can say that the social contract is changing during this time.
وانا هم عم بحاول احكي كعالم اجتماعي، ولكن عم بحاول يعني اللي شفته بهاي التجربه. طبعا يعني هذا كثير كنت عم بحاول اظهره بالفويس اوفر، انه التناقضات كانت موجوده. يعني نفس هذول الناس بعد شوي ممكن تلاقيهم بحاله مع بعضهم متضامنين، بعد شوي تلاقيهم ضد بعضهم. يعني في تناقض مستمر عم بيصير بشكل شبه يومي، فصعب بنحط واحد هيك نصفط الامور.
And I do not speak here as a social scientist, but as someone that lived the situation. And having said this, maybe the same people that at one moment decided to actually retreat into the rather small family reunion, you would then see them in larger groups and feel safer in these larger groups. And in one moment they would be with each other, then against each other. So what is important to understand that these contradictions are continuously and they continuously develop. It's not like this.
Taking off from there, the whole idea of cinema. How did cinema happen to Abdullah while being there? Was he watching films all the while? How did the interest go? How did the camera come into his life? Some bits about his own relationship with cinema and the act of filmmaking.
علاقتي بالسينما مثل علاقتك بالفيزياء النووية، والله إذا عندك علاقة بالقنابل النووية. يعني ما عندي علاقة قبل صناعة هذا الفيلم أو قبل أحداث الثورة السورية، بالحقيقة ما عندي علاقة مع السينما. يعني يمكن رحت مرة أو مرتين على السينما بحياتي بسوريا، وكنت أتابع أفلام بس يعني كمتابع عادي، كحدا من فترة لفترة بيحضر فيلم بسهرة أو هيك، بس ما فيني أدعي إني كنت متابع للسينما العالمية أو هيك. وحتى بمجال التصوير كمان ما عندي أي خلفية علمية أو خلفية هذا خبير بهذا الموضوع. حملت الكاميرا بالحصار بدافع الواجب، ولا بشرح عن هذا الموضوع.
So the relationship to cinema is maybe like the one to physics in a way. So before the Syrian Revolution, I did not really have a relationship to the cinema. Maybe I went to the cinema once or twice while living in Syria, but not more than this. I was a normal viewer. From time to time, I watched films, but it was not that I was really following the worldwide cinema scene. And similar it was with filming. So I didn't enjoy a professional filmmaking education, but taking up a camera and filming started rather as a duty. And I will now explain what I mean by feeling that it's a duty.
بعرف إنه مو هذا الخطاب اللي لازم واحد يحكيه كمخرج، إنه لازم بيعرف السينما وإلى آخره، ولكن بحب أكون كثير واضح بهذا المحل. لما كنت عم بصور بالكاميرا تقنيا بعرف أشغل الكاميرا وأطفي الكاميرا، ولكن كثير من مميزات الكاميرا وخصائصها وكيف تشتغل أنا فعلا ما كنت عارفها بهذيك اللحظة. وما كنت عم بصور لحتى أصنع السينما، ولكن كنت عم بصور لأوثق اللحظة، ولكن كنت عم بحاول أوثقها بطريقة تحمي كرامة الناس، بطريقة ما أظهر الجانب اللي ما بحب أظهره فيني. يعني بحب أصور الناس أنا بحب أتصور.
And I know it's not popular to talk like this, but I want to be very clear about this, that this is probably not the discourse of a professional filmmaker and director. But when I took up the camera, I didn't know how to switch it on and off. I didn't know about all these special features you have in a camera. And filming at this moment meant to document. I didn't film in order to make a cinema movie, but when I filmed, I tried to protect the dignity of people and to film them in a way that I would accept to be filmed.
إذا في حدا بيشوف هذا الفيلم مهم أو فيلم جيد، ما بعرف شو المصطلح اللي يستخدموه، فأكيد أنا أقل شخص اللي يدور بهذا الموضوع. يعني أنا بعتقد إنه سكان المخيم صمودا ومقاومة للحصار هو اللي أعطى الفيلم هذا المعنى وهي القيمة، فممكن كان أي حدا تاني يعمل الموضوع لو كان عنده فرصة.
And if anyone likes the film or finds the film good, then I'm the last person that made this possible, but it's the people in Yarmouk, the way they stayed steadfast, the way they continued to resist. And if any other one had the chance to have done this kind of documenting and taking up their stories, they could have done it also.
تحديدا اللي بشوف مثلا مشهد تسنيم باخر الفيلم بيعرف انه تسنيم هي اللي قادت المشهد بالمقابله، مو انا اللي كنت عم بقود المشهد.
And for those that watch the film or will see it, there's this scene of Tasneem at the end of the film, and anyone who watched the movie will actually understand that she is leading the scene. It's not me that is leading the scene with the camera.
بس أنا كان معي كاميرا.
But I was the one having the camera in my hand at this moment.
Yeah, you mentioned Tasneem, and I would expand it to include the many children who populate the film, who are the subjects of the film. I think they are the ones who give the film its most emotive value. They are the ones who ground it and also give a sense of hope, because despite everything around them, I was so taken in and moved by seeing them smile all the way through.
ما أثر الأولاد عليكي من خلال الفيلم، كانوا عم بيأثروا علي، وعم بظن كانوا عم بيأثروا على حياة المخيم. أنا شخصيا إذا كان يعني لما كنت أحس بلحظات اكتئاب شديدة بالحرب وأحس إنه أنا فعلا رح أوشك على الانتحار، كان الملجأ الوحيد بالنسبة لي هدول الأولاد. قدرتهم على التعامل مع الحدث، الطاقة اللي موجودة عندهم، الكرامة اللي واضحة بوجوههم، يعني كرامتهم بالتعامل مع الموضوع. كانوا عم بياكلوا من العشب ولكن عم بيضحكوا، عم بيقولوا نحن عم ناكل أكل حيوانات بس، ومع ذلك كان عندنا قدرة إنهم يضحكوا. أعتقد أحد عوامل الصمود لأن باليرموك إن هذول الأولاد كانوا، فإذا فرحوكي مرة فرحونا 1000 مرة.
So the way the children had an impact on you, it was the same on me, and actually on the whole camp, and probably on the life of the camp itself. So at moments when I was really depressed and probably close to committing suicide, they were for me a kind of refuge. So to see their energy, to see the dignity they have while being in this really difficult situation, to see the dignity in their faces, to see how they laugh while they're actually eating dry grass, and make a joke about how they eat the food of animals, but continue to laugh about it. That gave us a lot. So the children actually supported the whole camp in being steadfast. So if they made you smile once, you can imagine that they gave us like 1,000 smiles continuously.
Mm-hmm. In fact, I was impressed and kind of, moved by the fact that almost everyone has a, there is no, even while facing so much in life, they don't hold, a sense of venom or poison within. There is this belief in the larger power that, God has maybe meant this to happen, and there is some larger plan, which is not just, which makes even people who are the older people very positive, very very steadfast, as he says, in holding on to the place, to their life, and saying that they won't move come what may. There's that old lady who says that she will stay in the place because she has her roots there and she has a life there.
هن الوجه الثاني من وجوه الحصار. يعني حقيقة اللي كنت عم بحاول أعمله من خلال هذا الفيلم هو إظهار تماما هذول وجهتين النظر. وجهة نظر الأطفال اللي بالنسبة لي بيمثلوا المستقبل، هذا المستقبل اللي عم بيتم محاصرته، اللي فيه محاولة لقتله، ومع ذلك عنده قدرة إنه يضحك ويستمر ويقول أنا رح أضل موجود. الوجهة النظر الثاني إن المسنين اللي بشكله بالنسبة لي كفلسطيني الماضي وذاكرتي كلاجئ موجود بهذا المكان، واللي تمسكا بهذا المكان، يعني رفضا للخروج من اليرموك، هو عمليا يعني عم بيحاولوا يحافظوا على الذاكرة الجمعية تبعيتنا، لأنه هدول ذاكرتنا الجمعية كفلسطينيين، هدول اللي ولدوا بفلسطين واضطروا إنهم يجوا على سوريا، فتمسكهم بالمكان هو تمسكهم بذاكرتنا. ف ترجم من هون.
So you have mentioned the elderly people, and you can say that's basically the other face of the siege. And I tried to the film to make these two faces appear. So you have the kids. The kids symbolize our future that is besieged and that is tried to be killed, but that still says, "I stay here." And then they are the elderly people, and they have a special position for me as a Palestinian, and they symbolize our memories as refugees that were forced to leave Palestine before, and that now refuse to leave the camp. So they are kind of the collective memory, and this collective memory is connected to the place of the camp.
يعني أمي بهذا المحل بعلاقتها مع المسنين اللي هي كانت عم تحاول تحمي هاي الذاكرة من خلال إنه تقدم لهم مساعدة، لأنه عمليا الحفاظ على حياتهم هو حماية هاي الذاكرة. وأنا بعلاقتي مع الأطفال كنت عم بحاول كمان، يعني ما بدي أقول كنت عم بحاول أحمي المستقبل، مش أنا كشخص، ولكن العلاقة مع الأطفال واللعب اللي كنا نلعب والشغل اللي كنا نشتغله هو جزء من الحفاظ على مستقبلنا. فأنا وأمي كنا الوسيط ما بين هدول الجيلين، ما بين الماضي والمستقبل.
And on the other you also see my mom in the film, and my mom has the special relationship to the elderly people and takes care of them, and you can kind of say through her taking care of them in this difficult situation, she takes care of this collective memory and tries to keep it alive for all of us. And me, on the other hand, I tried to take care of I don't want to say I tried to take care of the future, but these children are the future. And me and other activists, through playing with the children, through spending time with them, to comfort them, we kind of took care of the future in one way or the other. And so you can actually say that this relationship between me and my mom is kind of the intermediate between the past and the future.
يعني الموضوع كثير مهم بالنسبة لي اللي حاولت يعني إنه نظهرها من خلال خطاب المسنين، إنه هذا المكان هو مو مجرد مكان فيزيائي، مجرد بيوت، مجرد مكان الناس بتعيش فيه، ولكن هو هويتنا، هو هوية سياسية بالنسبة لنا، هو هوية اجتماعية بالنسبة لنا، وله قيمة أكثر من القيمة المادية للمكان بحد ذاته، قيمتنا كأشخاص كأفراد.
And a really important point here is in the discourse about these elderly people, that it's not about a physical place, but it's about our identity, our political identity, and our social identity as Palestinians and Palestinian refugees. So it's also about the value of each of these individuals.
وحاولت كمان أركز أو يعني من خلال المسنين أذكر إنه مأساتنا كفلسطينيين أساساً هي نتيجة نكبة ب 48، نتيجة طرد إنه هدول الناس تم طردهم من بيوتنا ب 48، فنحن اليوم كمان بحالة نكبة مستمرة. ففي كان رسالة سياسية للإشارة لدور إسرائيل باللي عم بيصير فينا كمان اليوم.
And I try to concentrate to these elderly people also to make understandable that what is happening today with us in Yarmouk is connected to the Nakba. If people were not thrown out of Palestine in 48, then they would not live a renewed Nakba today in Syria. So we have to understand this as a continuous Nakba that started when people were thrown out of Israel.
Yeah, you talked about the past and the future, about the memories of what it used to be. When I was seeing all the characters, in this tragedy which is unfolding, I was forming a one-to-one relationship with them. And I'm very keen to know that after 2018, what happened. I mean, everyone was taken out of Yarmouk, but what are you still in touch with any of them? Where are they? The kids in particular, something about what life is like for the people who we see on camera.
اكو شخص شو صار فيه، ولكن ممكن احكي بشكل عام بالمجمل شو اللي صار بالفلسطينيين بعد 2018 واعطي اشارات لبعض الاشخاص. بالعموم بعد 2018 تم قصف المخيم بشكل همجي من النظام السوري وروسيا، بتعرف هذا الجزء، وتم تهجير الناس باتجاه الشمال السوري. اليوم عدد كبير من الفلسطينيين مقيمين بخيم داخل بمنطقة الشمال السوري، وهذا برجع بذكرنا مرة ثانية بالنكبة، لأنه هن أول ما عاشوا الأهالينا طلعوا وعاشوا بخيام، واليوم ردينا رجعنا على الخيام. فطول ما نحن لاجئين راح نضل ننتقل من خيمة لخيمة لحتى يكون لنا فرصة نرجع لبلادنا، نرجع نسكن ببيوتنا.
I cannot tell you about each person that is in the film, but I will tell you generally on the situation of the Palestinians in Syria and the Palestinians of Yarmouk after 2018, and then I'll tell you some stories about the people you see in the film. So it's important to understand that Yarmouk was completely destroyed by Russian and Assad bombing in 2018, and a huge part of its former population was displaced to the north of Syria, and people there were forced to live again in tents. This actually brings us back to the story of the Nakba, and this also reminds us that as long as we are refugees, we will always be forced to live in tents and in camps.
وزي ما بقول محمود درويش، هي هجرة أخرى فلا تكتب وصيتك الأخيرة بالسلام، أو رجعت الترجمة رجعت في تنشيط. بس فيني أحكي مثلا إنه أمي موجودة اليوم بألمانيا، بعض الأطفال كان لهم فرصة يوصلوا أوروبا، فمثلا رح يكون معنا بكان شمس وشهد وشذا، هن البنات اللي موجودين بالفيلم بمشهد بأكثر من مشهد رح يكونوا موجودين، وشمس رح يكون لها كلمة تحكي عن الفيلم، ولكن هالمرة رح تحكي باللغة الفرنسية. يمكن الناس ما تفهم عربي بلكي يفهموا فرنسي،
Yeah, and so this refugee crisis won't be solved until people can return to the place they came from. And there is a famous saying by Mahmoud Darwish that basically says, yeah. So this is another displacement. So don't start to write down what happened to you, because it's just another one. They will follow many more. Is basically what this saying means. And today, when we talk about specific characters in the film, there's my mom. She's today living in Germany, and then there are the three gorgeous girls you see in the film, Shams, Shahad, and Shaza, and they live today in France, and they will join us when the film is screened in Cannes. And we will hopefully listen then to Shams, and she will tell us her story. And this time you will hear her speaking in French. And I sincerely hope that when she tells her story in French, that people will actually really start to listen and understand.
أغلب المسنين اللي ولدوا ب 48 تمسكوا ببيوتهم بالمخيم، ماتوا بحصار المخيم.
And of course, the more shadowy scenes or idea of the film is that many people died either in the siege due to starvation or due to the bombing. And many of the old people that you see in the film that really were so insistent on staying, they actually died during the siege.
One last question before I call it a wrap. You mentioned about how making this film was a duty to document. From then on, your involvement and your activism, how does it continue? Does it continue as a filmmaker, or are there other activities that you are involved in? And do we see you make more such films related to the Palestine issue? How does one see you take the future trajectory as a filmmaker and as an individual and activist?
الناس عم بيحاولوا كتابة السرد اللي خاص فينا اللي صار بفلسطينية سوريا، وهذا السرد لازم ينكتب بكل اللغات اللي بتفهم الناس وبكل اللغات اللي بتحب تشوفها الناس. فإذا في ناس بتحب تشوف هذا السرد على شكل دراسات وأبحاث عم نشتغل هذا الجزء، وإذا في ناس بتحب تشوف هذا السرد على شكل أدب فكمان عم نشتغل عليه، وإذا في ناس بتحب تشوف هذا السرد على شكل سينما أو فوتو فكمان رح نشتغل على هذا الموضوع. أنا شخصيا عم نشتغل وعم بشتغل، لأنه أنا بشتغل بهاي المجالات الثلاثة عم بكتب فيها. كتير بتمنى إني أكمل بصناعة السينما. يعني بصراحة قبل هذا الفيلم صعب أقول عن حالي مخرج. اليوم بحس إنه في مخرج مبتدئ موجود، ممكن تتطور معاه في موهبتي بهذا المكان. عندي ماتيريا وعندي أفكار لمشاريع بحب إني أشتغل عليها، بس هذا كلياته يعني مرتبط مع صعب. يعني مشكلة تجربتي بالحرب بطل تخليني أحط خطط ل5 سنين قدام. أنا خطتي يعني كل ساعة بساعتها، ما بعد ساعة شو ممكن يصير معي، وهذا اللي تعلمته من الحرب. ولكن من حيث المبدأ بحب أكمل بالسينما.
So I work kind of now in the situation of being part of developing the narrative, and it's not only me; it's part of a larger group that does so. So we try to tell the narrative of Palestinian Syrians and what has happened to them. And there are different ways to tell this, different languages you can use. There's the language of academic studies, poetry, cinema, picture, and personally I try to work on these different levels, and I have done so. I've issued my own academic studies with people, and I personally hope to continue on the also as a filmmaker. Before doing this film, I didn't see myself as a filmmaker, but now I see myself as a starting filmmaker, and I have ideas and projects in mind. But also I learned through the war not to plan the far future, because it could change any moment.
Thank you so much, and all the best with the film. I hope it makes people in Cannes aware of what's happening to the Palestinians and make them aware about the Palestinian cause. And hopefully we get to watch this film in India as well sometime in the future.